Good afternoon, beautiful people, and happy Tuesday. Well, the legal war between President Donald Trump and New York Attorney General Letitia James just took another turn. If you've been following this story for the last couple of years, then you know that this is no ordinary disagreement between two politicians. These two have been battling each other, if that's what you want to call it, through investigations, lawsuits, courtrooms, and now the Justice Department. But this time, a federal appeals court has handed James a significant victory. So let's jump in. Welcome to Nellie Miranda. A prosecutor selected by the Trump administration has now been blocked from participating in an investigation involving James. Not necessarily because the court decided that the investigation itself was illegitimate, but because the court says that the prosecutor wasn't legally serving as acting U.S. attorney when he issued the subpoenas. And this isn't the first time that we've heard about federal prosecutors being unlawfully installed. And in fact, I think that's been one of the biggest problems with the cases against Letitia James. They keep getting derailed over who was appointed and whether they had legal authority to bring the case in the first place. Not even over whether she's guilty or not, because based on what I've seen, I believe she is guilty on the mortgage allegations. The bigger issue is that she could ultimately get off the hook on the mortgage fraud allegations because of procedural and appointment problems, while she has spent years using her office to bring cases against other people. The irony is unbelievable. Rules for thee, but not for me. Pure insanity. But if you are 65 and are on Medicare, you have to reach out to Chapter. It's a totally sane thing to do. Everything costs more money than it did a year ago. You feel it every time you check out. And you might even be overpaying for your Medicare and not even know it. So again, if you are on Medicare or about to be, Chapter can help. They are the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. Folks who have switched with Chapter last year saved an average of $1,100. That is real money in your pocket, especially in this economy. You will also walk away knowing that you are in a plan that actually fits your needs with access to care that you can count on. So for complete Medicare guidance, please call Chapter at 646-817-8160. That is 646-817-8160, or go to askchapter.org/Nellie. Now back to the story. Okay, so the man at the center of this latest ruling is John Sarcone III. Attorney General Pam Bondi appointed Sarcone interim U.S. attorney for the Northern District of New York in March of 2025, and that is where the problem started. An attorney general can appoint an interim U.S. attorney, but that appointment generally lasts only 120 days. After that, federal law provides another process for filing the vacancy. Sarcone's 120 days eventually ran out, and the federal judges in the Northern District of New York declined to appoint him to continue in the position. So the Justice Department tried something different. Sarcone was designated a special attorney and the first assistant U.S. attorney, with the administration arguing that this allowed him to continue exercising authority at the top of the office. And now the courts are saying, not so fast. On August 21st, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals ruled 2-1 that Sarcone was not lawfully serving as acting U.S. attorney when he issued subpoenas targeting the office of New York Attorney General Letitia James. Subpoenas have now been blocked, and that matters because of what Sarcone was investigating. But to understand that, we have to rewind several years. Letitia James and Donald Trump have one of the most bitter political and legal rivalries in American politics. Letitia James ran for New York Attorney General in 2018, and Trump was already a major part of her campaign. I mean, she campaigned on getting Trump. She publicly vowed to investigate his business dealings if elected. And then after taking office, her office launched an investigation into the Trump Organization. That eventually resulted in the massive civil fraud lawsuit filed in 2022. James accused President Trump, his company, and other defendants of repeatedly inflating the values of properties and other assets in financial statements. Trump denied any wrongdoing, and he argued that the entire case was politically motivated. The case eventually went to trial, and in February 2024, Judge Arthur Engoron issued a devastating judgment against Trump. Trump was initially ordered to pay more than $350 million. And then with interest, that amount eventually climbed substantially higher. James celebrated the ruling. Trump's reaction was exactly what you would expect. He argued that the prosecution was political. In my opinion, the optics did not look good because it appeared to me that her focus was getting Trump because that is what she campaigned on. But in August 2025, a New York appeals court threw out the enormous financial penalty, concluding that the disgorgement award was excessive. And it was. But it is important to note that the appellate court did not erase the underlying fraud findings. So both sides claimed some level of victory. Trump could point to the hundreds of millions of dollars in penalties being thrown out, and Letitia James could point to the fact that the underlying liability determination remained. But I am sure Letitia James did not ever think that President Trump would be back in the White House. And then, surprise, he is. And that is when the situation flipped. Now, the Justice Department began investigating James. And one of those investigations was handled through Sarcone's office. In August 2025, Sarcone issued subpoenas seeking records from James's office. And there were actually two major areas involved. One concerned Letitia James' civil fraud investigation and lawsuit against President Trump and the Trump Organization. And then the other concerned her office's investigation and litigation against the National Rifle Association. Do you remember that case? So back in 2020, James went after the NRA and its leadership, alleging years of financial mismanagement and misuse of charitable assets.
These individuals in the NRA are charged with failing to manage the NRA's funds and failing to follow numerous state and federal laws, which contributed to the loss of more than $64 million in just 3 years.
So now federal investigators wanted records concerning both of these enormously politically sensitive cases. According to reporting about the investigation, prosecutors were examining potential civil rights violations connected to the way that those cases were handled. There were no charges resulted from Sarcone's investigation. James fought the subpoenas, and her lawyers argued that this was political retaliation. They believed that the Trump's Justice Department was using federal law enforcement to investigate the woman who spent years and years investigating Trump. They also believed that John Sarcone didn't have the legal authority to issue those subpoenas in the first place. And then in January 2026, U.S. District Judge Lorna Schofield agreed. The judge ruled that Sarcone was not lawfully serving as acting U.S. attorney when the subpoenas were issued. Therefore, the subpoenas were unenforceable. The Justice Department appealed, and now the Second Circuit has essentially reached the same conclusions. So right now, those subpoenas targeting Letitia James's office cannot be enforced through Sarcone. We've seen similar legal fights involving several prosecutors around the country. Alina Habba in New Jersey, Sigel Chata in Nevada, Lindsay Halligan in Virginia, Bill Aselli in California. The basic dispute is similar. The administration wants certain people leading these U.S. attorneys' offices, but Senate confirmation can become extremely difficult. And so the administration has attempted to use temporary appointments, first assistant positions, special attorney designations, and delegated authority to keep its preferred prosecutors in place, and the courts have repeatedly pushed back. But to be clear, there are actually two different legal battles involving Letitia James and Trump's Justice Department, so let's not confuse them. The Sarcone investigation we're talking about today concerns subpoenas seeking information about Letitia James's handling of the Trump civil fraud case and the NRA case. Separate from that was the federal mortgage fraud prosecution against Letitia James in Virginia. That case alleged that James made false statements connected to a property transaction, and James denied those allegations. And that prosecution ran into its own appointment problems because Lindsay Halligan was ruled unlawfully appointed. The original indictment was dismissed, and I'm not sure how long these court backfired will draw out. But what are your thoughts? Do you believe that these courts are correctly enforcing the law and preventing presidents from bypassing Senate confirmation? Or do you think that the courts are using technical appointment rules to interfere with the president's ability to run his own Justice Department. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you got any value from today's video, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to support the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss any future updates. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.